Welcome to Mini-Blog. Today we're going to talk about symmetric and asymmetric cryptography. Let's start with the simplest one, which is symmetric cryptography. What is at the core of the symmetric cryptography? It's a private key. The private key in the digital domain is basically a long random number. And with this long random number, we're able to do two things. First of all, we can encrypt and also we can decrypt. So with the same key, we can do both things. There are many standards today for encryption. One of the most used is the EAS, the Advanced Encryption Standard. So coming back to the example of Romeo and Juliet, Romeo wants to send a poem to Juliet, and he wants to use symmetric cryptography. If he wants to use symmetric cryptography, what he will do basically is generate a private key, and with the private key, going to encrypt the message. Then going to send a message to Juliet, and in a way or another, Juliet gonna use the same private key to decrypt the message. And once the message is decrypted, Juliet will read the poem. The problem, obviously, is that in the real life, maybe Romeo can meet in a bar Juliet and pass a private key. But how can we pass safely this private key in the digital world? So, symmetric cryptography, although it's very fast and very reliable, and these are good points, the danger are that if intercepted, the data will be compromised in both ways. How to solve this problem? Well, here is where it comes, the asymmetric cryptography. Asymmetric cryptography from a private key, that it's again a long random number, we pass this long random number to an algorithm, in this case the elliptic curve cryptography algorithm, and with this private key we can generate different public keys that they act in the public space like open locks. So these public keys or public addresses, you can put them in the web, let's say, open in the web, and everybody can know them. And there is no way that from this public key that is put in the open, anybody can know the private key. From the private, you can generate the public, but from the public, you cannot generate the private. So both can encrypt, the public key can encrypt and the private key can encrypt, but only the private key can encrypt and decrypt. Knowing that, now when we want to pass the poem to Juliet using asymmetric cryptography, we're going to have this public private key for Romeo and this public private key for Juliet. So if Romeo wants to send a message to Juliet, he's going to take the public key from Juliet and he's going to encrypt the message, send the message, and Juliet with her private key going to decrypt the message and read the poem. And opposite, if Juliet wants to send a message, she would use the public key from Romeo to encrypt the message, and once Romeo has received the message with his private key, he would be able to read the message. This is super important to be understood, that these two keys are interlinked, that only one can be opening to the public, and that having this opening to the public, you can never know the private. That the public and the private can encrypt, but only the private can decrypt. This is the key, because internet today is secured through public key cryptography. It's super important that we understand this. And in Web 2, the keys where or are in the server, so we outsource this service, and these keys are in any application that you use in Web 2. But in Web 3 and in crypto, we take responsibility of this. We are responsible of these keys. We are responsible of our public-private keys, specifically of our private keys. And keeping these private keys safe allow us freedom and allow us the power to communicate with everybody in a secure way. Having understood that, now we're ready for the next lesson.